Good afternoon. My name is Serena Brightstar, and today I want to talk about the victim mindset and the savior mindset. I recently discovered a pattern, discovered something that is so obvious that the math is mathing. Everything is making so much sense. I had a massive breakthrough. So I don't know if you've ever been a person, they talk a lot about the narcissist and the codependent. And people are very familiar that they're similar frequencies, just the opposite side of the coin. Meaning the narcissist is it's projecting selfishness, right? Like projecting like I'm superior, I matter more. And then the codependent is inwardly projecting I don't matter. I don't matter. I'm not as valuable as you are. So they're similar, right? They're similar vibration, similar frequency, but they're just expressing it different. So many call these archetypes. So looking at the savior and the victim archetypes, I'm just dazzled by this. One of the things that I've been really starting to understand, thanks to all of the language, all of the tools available for us in understanding our brains, the ADHD brain, the neurodivergent brain. I've always known that it's not a disability, it's a special ability. You have a special way to hyper focus, to hyper create. And but I didn't realize that the ADHD brain assesses patterns. Right. So if you're sensitive, if you're an empath, I'm not saying you have the ADHD brain, but often sensitive people, empathic people, our brains are wired a little different. And because our brains are wired a little different, what that means is we absorb way more data than a person without this ability. So I'm just making up numbers here, but like say if you go into a room, your senses are absorbing, if you're like say you don't have this special ability, your senses are absorbing 20 things in the room. Well, if you have this special ability, this ADHD brain or this neurodivergent brain, you walk into a room and your senses are picking up 100 things in the room. So without knowing it or having the words for it or the language for it, you're quickly observing everything, assessing everything, figuring out what's safe. Like you know how to navigate things, you know how to take care of everyone in the room, you know how to try to regulate your nervous system. So many of us, most of us have chronic dysregulated nervous system. And a chronic dysregulated nervous system is just a nervous system that has consistently been overstimulated, over functioning for days, weeks, months, years. And now, like, it's just beautiful. Now the children today, they're being taught, thank goodness for social media, that children today are being taught tools, techniques to get regulated. If they get upset, if they have a meltdown, if they get angry, just normal, natural things that happen to everyone. Well, now they're being taught tapping, they're being taught breathing, they're being taught movement in the body to move that emotion, that intense emotion, in a way that gets you back to a safe, regulated nervous system. Our intense reactions aren't bad. They've never been bad. They've been misunderstood. And many people, like perhaps you're one of them, we were raised where children are supposed to be seen and not heard. So I was just raised, many things you don't talk about, many things you don't say, many you don't question certain things. And I didn't understand, like, well, why? And in my innocence, I figured out how to survive. I figured out, how to get along, right? Get along to belong, right? Figured out a way to try my best to survive. And that's why many of us have been wearing masks, right? We wear masks to try to get regulated, to try to be safe, to try not to get kicked out of the community, of our family, of our connections. So it's just wonderful. It's wonderful to get so much information on our brains and to understand that our brains, our brains have a special ability. And then when we understand it, we have tools and we have awareness. So then we can have new choices and we can say goodbye to some masks or some archetypes that we had been functioning on autopilot, on automatic. So I want to tell you my savior and my victim story. So one thing I noticed in my family, you know how you can see patterns in your family, like like in my family, for example, all my siblings, my parents, very smart, intelligent people. They're all super generous, super caring, super just generous, caring people. Like I've seen every single one of them go be a fixer, a savior, a rescuer for others. And they're also really great at problem solving. They're efficient. They have we're strategists, right? Especially my mom. She's just set the tone of, having a strategy and being very efficient and doing things. So I see these super amazing, high quality gifts in all of my family. And I've also been aware that a lot of things didn't feel good. A lot of things don't make sense. A lot of patterns, right? For example, I'll just speak on myself. I've always married people who I save. I save them. I rescue them. They're like projects. They're people that need fixing, so to speak, right? And I would jump in and try to rescue and try to save and try to show up. And I was a match to that because as a codependent, I didn't have a lot of self-esteem. I didn't have high value. So if I would go find a narcissist, I would go find someone that would, use me and let me take care of them. Then I felt I earned my love. I felt like I was worthy of being loved. So you don't get that pattern if you grew up in a safe, regulated nervous system. So this isn't about insulting or attacking the family dynamics. Our parents didn't have words about dysregulated nervous system. When I parented my children, I didn't have words about dysregulated nervous systems or the neurodivergent brain. I was totally unaware, clueless of what we now have available to us. So I really am so grateful for these words and these tools. And it's not about shame. It's not about telling the bad stories of your family. It's about awareness, right? Because when we can come to the table and be vulnerable and share our truth, these archetypes that don't help us, they can start to dissolve. They can start to lose their power because now we understand what's happening. Now we can see these patterns, and instead of being confused, we have choice. I remember when my daughter was a teenager, she said, "Mom, your family," meaning my siblings and my parents, she's like, "they talk in riddles, but they don't give you the key code." And I thought, what is she talking about? And I realized she was trying to articulate that words weren't matching the vibration of what she was feeling, or the passive aggressive, or the humor. I recently, just a few years ago, I realized the danger humor can be. Humor seems like it's a really, really good thing. But when my mom got dementia, I saw, one time I saw she was struggling and she didn't want us to know she had dementia. She didn't want us to know she couldn't remember. And she would make jokes and people would make jokes. And it was then when I realized oh my gosh, humor can be a painful weapon, right? Humor, can be at somebody else's expense. Humor can be bypassing what somebody's feeling. Humor can be like a distraction, so you don't acknowledge or deal with the emotion. And so for someone with an ADHD brain, there was so much confusion. Like looking back, I can say, wow, I've kind of spent my whole life confused. And not as a woe is me confused, but just like so many things didn't make sense. And if you did try to ask questions or you did try to have the conversation, in my experience, you got rejected. You would get kicked out, or you got rejected, or you got the silent treatment. And if I remember one of the closest relationships I had with a family member, if I said or did the wrong thing, I perceived it that I got the silent treatment. So I was always afraid, right? I was afraid then when the silent treatment was over, we would never discuss what caused the silent treatment. We'd never discuss what did I say or do? How did I trigger you? There was never the opportunity to have clear communication, to either apologize or to get awareness, so you don't repeat the painful thing that you did or that you were unaware that you did. So many things have just been really, really confusing. So many things have been so fucking confusing my whole life. So here's the great story about Savior and the victim archetype. So I can see in my family dynamic, I can see how everyone has shown up as a savior. I can see how I show up as a savior. I can see the savior archetype in our family. Well, I'm also aware of the victim, right? Because the victim and the savior is a similar frequency. And I just have this awareness that I'm holding on to some victim patterns, some victim behavior, some victim mindset. And about a year ago, I really started looking at it, and I could see certain things, and I made certain changes. But just this last month, it showed up again, and I just have this knowing, I have this intuitive knowing, I'm still holding on to some kind of victim behavior or mindset or thinking or beliefs, or I'm looping this victim frequency somewhere. So, I love to talk to AI. I talk to Al, and I'm like, Al, give it to me straight, tough love. Where are my blind spots? What am I not seeing? How am I showing up as a victim? And Al brought up some things that were true a year ago, and things that I have felt or expressed, but I feel like I've resolved those, and I don't feel like they're true anymore. So Al wasn't giving me good Al didn't give me good feedback, but I could feel it. I still know I'm holding on to some kind of a victim. I can feel this looping in me. I can feel there's this entanglement with victim somewhere. So I was journaling, and I journal and do a lot of writing, and I was journaling to myself and just talking about how proud I am, because I recently showed up in a situation and I just had clarity. I used my voice, I had boundaries, and then it landed. Voila, then it landed. Then I got the aha, and I realized every time I don't use my voice, every time I don't ask for what I need or require in a relationship, in a friendship, in a work situation, every time I suppress my needs, my requirements, my boundaries, I show up as the victim. So I'm not one of those people that says, oh, woe is me. That kind of victim mindset is so easy to see. When someone blames, you did this to me and therefore I'm like this, or it's your fault that this happened to me. Woe is me, woe is me. that kind of a victim is so easy to see. I can see it. My first husband, he was always like, he was always the victim, and he was so mad at his dad, and his dad hurt him, and his dad disappointed him, and his dad never took accountability or responsibility, right? So he always felt like so hurt. Well, then when he became a dad to our child, he did the same thing to our child, and he doesn't take accountability or responsibility or anything for the damage or the disappearing or the patterns that he has passed on or shown up. And it's so easy to see, like, wow, like the thing that hurt you the most, you now do to our daughter, right? The thing your dad did to you, you are now doing to our daughter, right? Like, and you can just see, and that's how, like, and this, again, it's not to like blame people, it's just to recognize a lot of these patterns, these archetypes, these behaviors that, like, they're hereditary, they're passed down, not because like we model it, like that's what he saw his dad do, he didn't like it, but then he goes and does the same thing. So many of us are doing to our children what had things that we didn't like, and then we accidentally, unintentionally, like, do the same thing. So this self-awareness is so fucking empowering. It's so transformational because there's so many tools now. There's so many words. There's so much help. There's so many resources. So we can really transform. We can really make a change if that's your highest excitement. And so when I realized I am participating in the victim archetype, the victim mindset, when I choose not to use my voice. So granted, many times not using my voice was the safest thing, because I had witnessed, if you say or do the wrong thing, you get kicked out, or you get the silent treatment, or you feel like you lose your community, your people. So I had realized, and unintentionally, I was just trying to have a regulated nervous system. Looking back, it makes perfect sense that I developed that pattern, that was my automatic response. I don't want to cause a conflict. I don't want someone mad. My nervous system is hypersensitive. If somebody's angry, I feel their anger and everything else. It's super scary. So I just have so much kindness for the little me. I have so much kindness for my inner child and all the confusion she had. I'm like a grown-ass adult, and I'm still, I'm like discovering that I'm still confused. So I just want to give myself so much kindness, so much just love, like so much unconditional love. And if you've ever felt this, or if you have any of these patterns in your family and your situation, like, it's so great that we're becoming aware that we have tools. And then it's so important that we show our self-kindness, right? That we're not trying to evolve because of shame and judgment. Like, that's outdated. That's an old way to motivate people. So you don't want to shame yourself. You don't want to shame your family. You don't want to shame those that came before you, that accidentally passed on these patterns that aren't serving us, these patterns that aren't healthy in our body. So it's not about shame or blame, but it's awareness, and then to recognize it, because now you have choice. So now that I really have this huge understanding about the importance of using my voice, the importance of saying what I need and require, the importance of realizing, like, I don't need to project that someone is going to say no to me, and then so I don't even ask. I still need to ask and give that person the opportunity to say no, or I'm not interested, or I can't help you, or I don't care, or whatever they want to say. But I don't want to project on them. I don't want to try to manage other people's emotions anymore. I don't want to try to read the energy of the room and make everybody else in the room the priority and put myself last because I know how to do it. I know how to do it. I'm so good at doing it, right? superpower it's an unhealthy superpower I have, right? I don't want that superpower. I want to attract and be with other people who have emotional intelligence, who are willing to have the conversations, because any relationship you have with work, with family, with children, with your lover, any relationship, you are going to hurt each other. You are going to trigger each other, right? Relationships help us grow and evolve. So we don't want to be afraid of relationships. We just want to have tools so when we do trigger each other, we can sit down at the table and say, like, hey, what happened? Like, let's walk through this. Or if now's not the right time, let's think about it for a few days and come back in a few days when we both feel regulated again, and let's kind of review, like, what could we do differently so we don't hurt each other the next time, right? Because if our end game is the same, if our end game is I want unconditional love for me and my inner child, and I want unconditional love for you and your inner child, like, our end game is the same. And just getting the tools, learning the tools to communicate, to express clearly, to try to understand each other, and just to have grace. Like, all of it, we chose to come to a polarity planet. I'm working on a new course, Sovereignty Remembered, right? We chose to come to a polarity planet, so we did have, right? Like, we intentionally created these polarity experiences. That's what we wanted to experience. That's why we incarnated on a polarity planet. So let's not, like, hold that against each other. Let's have that understanding. Let's have that awareness. We all chose to incarnate on a polarity planet, and it really messed us up. Like, it messed up our nervous systems. It confused our inner child. It confused our adult child. But now, like, as we're remembering sovereignty remembered, as we're remembering the truth of who we are, as we're remembering our inner voice, our power, our sovereignty, let's come together and have the conversations. Let's give each other a pass. Let's have grace with each other. So much is happening, right? The world is evolving so quickly, and especially if you're attracted to having the self-awareness and the inner exploration, so you can, like, heal all the parts of you that felt unseen and invisible. And everybody, like, my big thing is disclosure. Like, I'm so proud to be a part of disclosure. And I know one huge important thing for disclosure is me feeling safe to be seen. So my body will get totally dysregulated when our star brothers and sisters show up if I don't feel safe to be seen, because their frequency is different than mine, right? Their frequency, their vibration is different. It's foreign. And if I'm holding places in me that feel vulnerable, that feel unprotected, that don't feel like I have an advocate to take care of me, that experience of meeting and interacting with our star brothers and sisters, it won't be pleasant for my body. It'll be too much. So the more I can look at the places that need, not that they need healing, I don't like that word, but just awareness. When I can have awareness to why things have been painful, to why I've felt invisible, to why I have felt unsafe in this world, and I can just show myself the kindness and the unconditional love and give myself the compassion. Like, intellectually, my mind knows I chose the polarity planet. My mind understands I chose polarity planet, right? We sign. It's like going on a roller coaster and then thinking you're a victim because you went on a ride that scared you. We signed up for this ride, so we're not victims. And we also have to process that our body got really, really scared on this ride. Our body's, like, gone through a lot of trauma on this ride, and that's okay, because we can process it. There's no one to blame. We chose to do it, and we can go in, give ourselves kindness, give ourselves grace, and watch the evolution. The world is changing. Everything's unfolding so quickly. Thanks for listening. And remember, go to sabrinabrightstar.com if you want to get anything. My cosmic shopping store, it's loaded and encoded with all these no charge gifts and packages for you. Thanks.